them all away. Little children in the street, dying every day. We all look for something we can never find, and we all need peace of mind. Lonely wretch on the street, looking for love. $20 beneath the sheets. Is this all she thinks of? We all look for something.
Three, two.
Hey everybody, Sean Morris with Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit. Thanks for joining another episode. I know you all know my good friend Timmy Thibodeau. Tim, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good here. 12 days before the election. A lot going on. So let's just get started, Sean.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. You know, I think everybody knows election time is coming. It's been a hot topic, basically because Donald Trump, I think, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a huge figure. You have a lot of people who want to go out and vote for him, a lot of people that want to go out and vote against him. But the bottom line is that most people are thinking about voting for a candidate, whether it's a presidential candidate, whether it's a local government candidate, whether it's your mayor, your council person. But Timmy, there's something that most people just don't know about. And these are called propositions. And these are really the New York State legislature trying to somehow figure out how to change our Constitution and add or subtract or whatever it is that they want to do because they think they know best for us. And many times I find that their propositions are not what's best for us. But there's a prop out there this year. I don't even know if you know about it. You know about Proposition 1?
Yes, it's Proposition 1, and it is on the back of the ballot. So when you go in to vote, everybody, flip that ballot over and read that proposition. It is not good, okay?
Well, here's the funny part.
That agree with it, okay?
Yeah, here's the funny part, though. When you turn over the ballot, it looks good, Timmy.
Yeah.
Equal Rights Amendment, right? Who in their right mind, don't want everybody to have some type of equal rights? I mean, that's the problem. Is Equal Rights Amendment what this bill really is? I mean, I'm talking to people, and the government people I'm talking to are saying, well, this Equal Rights Amendment really is about abortion and making sure that in New York abortion is protected. And I had to laugh because it's really baloney, right? We live in the bluest of blue states. Abortion is never going to have a problem, sadly, in this state. And to somehow try to convince people that we need to do this, we need to pass this prop because we have to protect the rights of abortion, kind of makes me suspicious,
and
right?
It's done, and it's being done sneakily, and you know that too, okay?
Is that a word, sneakily?
Sneakily, they're doing that. And as I said in the last podcast, it's kind of like the camel's nose under the tent,
Yeah.
Okay?
So let me just
going on.
Let me just read a couple things because I'm not sure I even see abortion in anything about this proposition.
No.
Right? Ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancies, pregnancy outcomes, reproductive health, and a whole bunch of other nonsense. But nothing's in there about abortion, right? It seems to me they're throwing in all these little other protections. And is this just really a bill to protect everybody? Or is there something a little more sinister going on, Tim?
Yeah, well, I think that we have a guest coming on there. It's going to clarify some of the things.
I think it's great.
Some of the things that you didn't mention should be pretty alarming.
Well, listen, here's what I do know. I know that we are blessed to have a lot of great guests on this show. And today we have a real superstar coming on the show who's going to help us peel back the layers of this crazy proposition. Liz Joy is her name. Most people in the Capital Region know Liz. She ran for Congress against Tonko on 2 different occasions. Imagine trying to run against Tonko in this bluest of blue states. Well, let me just tell you something. If anybody's ever scared the hell out of him, it's Liz Joy, because when her name pops up, he's actually got to get out and do some work.
Yeah.
Something that these Democrats don't have to do. She's also an author. She's an ordained minister. She's on numerous TV shows, numerous podcasts. I've seen her on Fox and Friends. She's all over the place. But today, she's here with us on Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit. Let me bring her in here. Liz, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're wonderful, man. Appreciate you coming on the show. I think you know exactly what we're concerned about, which is this Proposition 1. I'm concerned for several reasons. One, I don't think anybody knows it's even on the back of the ballot. Two, when you read the back of the ballot, it doesn't say anything at all other than you're giving these protections to all these people, which sounds good, right?
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
is it more sinister than that, Liz?
Oh, yeah. This bill, I mean, when you read the wording that's actually going to be on the ballot, right? And as the Democrats are framing this bill, it sounds great. So, it just sounds great. But the reality of what this bill does is incredibly dangerous to our Constitution here in New York State. It completely usurps parental rights in every single way. I mean, parental rights will be gone in New York State if this passes. It puts our daughters, granddaughters, and women in danger because the reality is men will now be allowed in women's and boys and girls' restrooms, showers, locker rooms. Um, and it also will provide for giving illegal aliens the right to vote. Well, how can that be? Well, I love the fact that you want to cover this because I really want to go into a lot of detail. Number one, first and foremost, to debunk the lies, the two big lies that are being promoted by the Democrat Party about this proposition. And then I want to build on the truth so that people know exactly what is in uh, this proposed amendment. So let's first debunk the two major lies, and then let's build on the truth.
Sure, let's go. Let's hit it.
Just
All right.
jump right on it.
Okay. All right. So, and I've got things that I want to actually read because one of the things that I find most helpful is people will say, "Well, I'm not going to listen to that person. Maybe they're a Democrat, so I'm just not even going to listen to them." And then the other side, they're like, "I'm not going to listen to them because they're a Republican, and they're just talking points. So I'm just going to vote along my party line." Nope. The way we're going to debunk the lies of this amendment here that they're trying to say is by actually reading the bill. And we're actually
Yeah.
to read this is in the state legislature. So, and these are things that are public. So these are things that people can go on to newyork.gov and look up themselves and read it themselves. This is public information. It's just that what's happening is, with 19 million New Yorkers, they're not really digging into research what's in it. They're just sort of going to vote along party
Well,
lines.
you and I both know.
Yeah.
I mean, being in politics, and if nobody, I've really never seen anybody read the props. If you're a Democrat and they hear the Democrats scream and vote for the props, they turn it around and they vote yes, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the way it goes. I've never seen anybody read them.
Yeah.
I've never seen, but I have noticed something, Liz, that I think will be refreshing to you. I'm
Yeah.
starting to see all these little signs pop up that
Mhm.
says vote no on Proposition 1. So
Yep.
somebody is getting the message out there. So I think they're going to be interested to hear what you have to say.
Right.
So
Liz,
let's.
Liz, do you have the bill number?
Yeah, so I actually have the bill that is in the Senate. It's called the Equal Rights Amendment, is kind of what they've dubbed it as, but it's 108-A. 108 dash.
Okay, so I'll look it on up. Maybe I can grab it and post it
And I'm
later.
going to read
Sure.
the parts to it, but the first thing that I want to say and I want to debunk here is this will not in any way, shape, or form prevent anybody access to abortion in New York State. Okay, so Democrats right now are saying and trying to promote this bill that you have to vote yes for this Proposition 1, because if you don't, abortion rights in New York State are in jeopardy. That is false. That is a lie. That is not the truth. Because in New York State, we have, sadly, I mean, I'm pro life, but sadly, there is full term abortion in New York State. There's provision in place to make it remain so, where there is full term access and services to any woman, including a minor that is seeking out an abortion. And the first thing I'm going to do is prove that to New Yorkers who think that the abortion rights are in jeopardy. No, they are not. And here is the very first thing that I want to read. This is Article 25 A. This is the Reproductive Health Act that was passed in 2019. And the Reproductive Health Act, Article 25 A, says this, and this is specifically on abortion. Policy and purpose. The legislature finds that comprehensive reproductive health care is a fundamental component of every individual's health, privacy, and equality. Therefore, it is the policy of the state that every individual has the fundamental right to choose or refuse contraception or sterilization. Every individual who becomes pregnant has the fundamental right to choose to carry the pregnancy to term, to give birth to a child, or to have an abortion pursuant to this article. The state shall not discriminate against, deny, or interfere with the exercise of the rights set forth in this section in the regulation or provision of benefits, facilities, services, or information. Again, this is Article 25A of the 2019 Reproductive Health Act. So that's number one. That's my first reading. Number two, this is the actual New York State government's statement on protecting and strengthening abortion rights. And here's what this says. Abortion has been legal in New York State since 1970. In 2019, New York's Reproductive Health Act further strengthened abortion rights with these protections in place. And here's a key word, because people are going to say, well, no, since, Roe versus Wade was overturned at the federal level, that means they're in jeopardy, that abortion is in jeopardy here in New York State. That is a false statement. I'm proving it to the listeners right now. And it says this, in 2019, New York's Reproductive Health Act further strengthened abortion rights. With these protections in place, any federal decisions to limit access to abortion will not impact abortion rights in New York. And Governor Hochul is taking action to keep abortion safe, affordable, and available to all who need it. And then, final here, the third reading is from the New York State Attorney General's office, Letitia James. And here's her statement. Access to abortion. People of all ages have the absolute right to abortion through the 24th week of pregnancy. Now, hang on. After 24 weeks, abortion is permitted if your medical provider decides your fetus is not viable or your life, your physical health, or mental health is at risk. So if anyone is even under mental duress and they have changed their mind, they have full access to abortion after 24 weeks up until the time of delivery. She goes on to say, if you're a minor in New York, you do not need your parents' permission to get birth control, abortion, prenatal care, or other reproductive health services. Not only that, not only do minors not need the permission of an adult, it goes on to say New York requires insurance coverage of abortion, and New York protects against discrimination based on reproductive healthcare decisions. So that lie that abortion is on the line in Proposition 1 it's a lie. Abortion is not on the line. It's not a factor. It is protected in New York State. Okay, So, what is the second lie? Because we've debunked the first one. Well, what's the second one? People are saying that transgender rights are in jeopardy in New York. If they don't pass, they're saying if Proposition 1 doesn't get passed, transgender rights are on the line. Again, that is false. I'm going to prove it to you. How? I'm going to read from the Constitution of New York State. This is Section 11, Article 1. Here's what it says. No person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws of this state or any subdivision thereof. No person shall, because of race, color, because of race, color, creed, religion, be subjected to any discrimination in his or her civil rights by any other person or by any firm, corporation, or institution, or by the state or any agency or subdivision of the state. So here's my question to anybody that might feel threatened that transgender rights are on the line. Are transgender people people? Are they human beings? Of course they are. Of course they are. Therefore, they are covered under the equal protection of the law of New York State. Why? No person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws of this state or any subdivision thereof. No person, you could say no transgender, shall, because of race, color, creed. Well, what's a creed? Creed is your set of belief systems. It's your own personal values. In New York State, your beliefs, you have the right to the equal protection under the law. I have the right to equal protection under the law. So that is the second lie that is debunked, that the Democrats are promoting. First, abortion is on the line. No, it is not. And second, transgender rights are on the line. No, they are not. Every person is covered under the New York State Constitution, has equal protection of the law. So let's just talk about what this bill really will do. So what will this actually do? Well, I can tell you, the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to come against, and I want to read some of this stuff to you. In this bill that they're promoting, that they want to actually change the New York State Constitution, what they want it to say now is no person shall be denied the equal protection of the laws, which already says this state or any subdivision thereof. No person shall, because of race, color. Now, here's the new stuff they want to put in: ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, pregnancy outcomes, or reproductive health care. Okay, and then it goes on to say, be subjected to any discrimination in, here's what they've done. In this new revision, they want to insert all of those things in the new revision, but they also want to take out his or her.
Correct. And
So
put
they
there, right?
his or her and replace it with their. Well, what does that do? It takes out male and it takes out female. Well, gee, what could happen if we take out male and female from the New York State Constitution? Well, now you have removed all protections for males and females, people that are male and female, because the new things that they want to put in goes on for Section B. This is the new wording that they want to put in. Again, you can find this under the New York State Senate 108-A. Okay, that's what it's called, otherwise known as the Equal Rights Amendment. Here is what the new wording will say. Nothing in this section shall invalidate or prevent the adoption of any law, regulation, program, or practice that is designed to prevent, or dismantle discrimination on the basis of characteristic listed in this section, nor shall any characteristic listed in this section, so all those new characteristics like national origin, age, gender identity, gender expression, nor shall any characteristic listed in this section be interpreted, are you ready? To interfere with, limit, or deny the civil rights of any person based upon any other characteristic identified in this section. Okay, well, what does that actually mean? That means you cannot disagree with any of the above descriptions. What? You can't disagree with national origin. You can't disagree with age. So if you take out the definition of age, because remember, in a legal document, when you have a legal document, you have to be very specific with your wording so you don't leave that document open to loophole interpretation of the law. So you have to be very specific. So they just have age listed. That means it could be 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, 4 year old, 5 year old, 6 year old, all 18 and under, because there's not a description of, say, in age 18 and over. Okay. Gender identity, gender expression, you are now not even going to be allowed by law, civil right law in the Constitution of New York. If this gets passed, you will not be allowed to disagree, interfere with, you will not be allowed to limit or deny. So if your minor child, mom and dad, if your minor child is identifying or expressing a different gender than they were born as in school, the school now has the right and the obligation by constitutional law to uphold the civil rights of that minor child in school, to protect that expression and transition. So now the school, under civil right law, is not allowed to tell the parent if their child is identifying or expressing a different gender in school than they were born as, and the parents don't know about it.
Or even grooming them.
Well, correct. And further than that, if a parent is concerned, if a parent calls and says, I'm very concerned that, my son or my daughter, what's going on with my son or daughter? They're acting very different. I'm very concerned. Have you noticed any behavior? Something's happening. The school cannot in any way tell the parents now, because it's under civil rights law. So now if the school discloses, they're violating someone's civil rights. But this goes even further than that.
How much further can you go, Liz? I mean, for God's sakes, you're scaring the hell out of me.
Well, yeah. Well, people should.
And everybody in New York State who's listening to this podcast should be frightened.
Okay. So here's the other thing. If you now, with the new wording of this constitutional amendment, if it's approved and this wording gets put into the Constitution, you as a parent can't even deny your child this, quote, new civil right to transition or gender transition or gender expression. You can't even deny it, because then the parent is in violation of another, quote, person's civil rights. And now they are in jeopardy, I kid you not, of losing custody of their own child.
It sounds to me like the school system is trying to supplant the parents.
Well, I don't know if it's the school, Timmy. I think it's the state legislature. And Liz just brought something up. Both. Well, Liz just brought something up that is not far-fetched, because in California, they've already passed laws that if you do not allow your child to transition, or if you're not supportive of their decisions, you can lose your kid to the state. I mean, where the hell does the state and any of the states get off thinking that they can be the parent of your child? I mean, that is frightening to me.
It is, yeah.
That is as bad as the stuff we talked about when kids would go missing and kids crossing the border disappear. Well, the state is now going to be the people that steal your kids away.
Mhm.
I mean, this is frightening at the highest level.
Yeah,
And as
it is.
go ahead, Liz. I
And
didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
no, no, and it should be. And I want to say to people, people might be thinking, "Oh, Liz, no, that can't happen." Yes, it can. It's already happening.
It's happening in
I would ask
California.
people to look up Dennis Hannon, who is out in Buffalo, New York, a Buffalo father who has been fighting for his own son for 7 years. Everybody look up Dennis Hannon, Hannon is the last name, Dennis, Dennis. He has been traveling all over giving interviews. His son is 10 years old now, but since the ages of 3 to 5, the parent, the mother of the child, began transitioning their son in calling the son a different name, going by Ruby, confusing the child. I mean, this was a child. So you have to read his story. He's been fighting for 7 years. He lost his home fighting for it. He paid $150,000 in attorney's fees. He was given a gag order by the judge because he simply did not agree with transitioning a youngster, a child, ages 3 to 5 years old, and giving that child puberty blockers, and eventually surgery. Thankfully, at 10 years old, Dennis has prevailed. Nothing has happened to his son yet, but he has been in the fight literally for this child's life. And people need to realize in New York State, I do not care what you believe. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican, independent. I do not care. My guess is you don't want to lose your parental rights. And if you say yes and vote yes to Proposition 1, you are 100% going to lose your parental rights. And then you will not even be able to argue for your parental rights because you will be in jeopardy of losing custody of your own child. So people might say, um, this can't pass because they can't begin gender transitioning my child. So I'm talking about the schools. So say your child begins identifying as something differently. The school now has the right to take your child and begin their transition. They can take them for medical treatments to transition, and they can begin giving them gender transition drugs. People are going to say, no, Liz, that's not possible. The state could never do that to, children. Really? I'd like to remind you that politicians have already done that to your minor daughters in New York State public health law that allows a school to take your daughter for an abortion, a minor daughter, without parental consent. That is a medical procedure that the parents are not allowed to know about, including an abortifacient drug, to be able to give them the pill to be able to abort that pregnancy without parental knowledge. So politicians have already done this and passed this, to be able to medically treat your child with something that parents don't know. So don't think that this is not going to happen because I'm actually going to prove it to you with more bills. But I also want to say that this will this absolutely will give illegals constitutional rights. Well, how do you know that? Because I just read to you that in this new wording that they want to put into New York Senate, again, go look it up, otherwise known as the Equal Rights Amendment 108 A, it puts in their protections for no person shall, because of race, color, here it is, national origin. Well, what do you mean national? Shouldn't we respect all national? Yes, of course we should respect. But if you give national origin to now constitutional rights, you're talking about every single illegal migrant, from wherever they came
Regardless.
from, they are now going to be put under the umbrella of our civil rights, New York State Constitution. And you have to remember that in New York State, supposedly currently right now, New York State law says that only New York citizens have the right to vote.
Let me ask you a question real quick, though, because I find this to be a little interesting. The federal law doesn't allow you to vote in federal or state elections, correct?
The federal law says that United States citizens only
Correct.
United States citizens only can be voting in our elections.
I
Is
think
it
it's just
federal or
federal though.
state?
So says that New York citizen, excuse me, United States citizens, excuse me, New York
Mhm.
State law says United States citizens are the ones that can only vote in New York State elections. However, you have to remember it's a constitutional right. So if you bring in any national origin now and you put them under the umbrella of constitutional rights, you are 100% opening the door for them to be able to constitutionally vote in New York State elections. Don't forget that a couple of years ago, the New York City Council voted to give 800,000 illegal aliens voting rights. A lawsuit by the New York GOP was brought against that, and thankfully they won. It was struck down. But don't forget, they already in the city, New York City, on the city council. These are legislators who are supposed to uphold, right, when they take their oath, the Constitution of New York State, and defend the Constitution. They wanted to vote. They voted yes unanimously to give voting rights to illegal aliens. That was struck down. But in New York State now, if you put national origin under this new civil rights, you are opening the door for illegal aliens. Well, people might be questioning. Maybe people are saying, yeah, but shouldn't we respect other people that come here? Yes, don't
Yeah,
you
the right way. The
they
right way.
right. We already have laws in place to respect other people. They should not be given voting rights. Those should be only for United States citizens.
That's the purpose of naturalization anyway. Okay, to become a naturalized citizen, that is what gives you your rights. Okay,
Correct. Yes.
so that's in place.
Yes.
This wants to get rid of that.
Yes. So I want to also point out that this is the actual ballot. This is or the
Yep.
actual writing on the ballot, right? This is
Hmm.
what the ballot is going to say. Proposal 1, amendment. And remember, this will be on the back of the ballot. So people are going to have to, flip the
Flip
ballot.
it over.
Yep. Amendment to protect against unequal treatment. This proposal would protect against unequal treatment based on ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, and sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, and pregnancy. It also protects against unequal treatment based on reproductive health care and autonomy. A yes vote puts these protections in the New York State Constitution. A no vote leaves these protections out of the New York State Constitution. I would like to add, all of these things, people are already protected in the New York State Constitution, as I just proved from reading it earlier and reading the Reproductive Health Act bills. Um, Abortion's already protected, and gender identity, frankly, is already protected because any transgender or any other gender identity, they're actual people, they're persons, so they are covered under equal treatment of the law. But what I do want to get into is people think that our minor child would not be allowed to be taken for medical puberty blockers, gender transitioning drugs or other surgeries. And I'm going to prove to you that if this passes, that is absolutely what is going to happen and how they're going to do it. So I have here Bill, New York State Assembly Bill 6761. Okay. New York State Assembly Bill 6761. And the corresponding bill that goes with it in the Senate, Senate Bill 8532.
Liz, can I ask a question real quick? I don't want to stop you from reading that, but who I read a lot about, this bill, and that's why I wanted you to come on because it was frightening. Who I didn't read who sponsored the bills. I'm going to just take a guess in the Senate, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. Is it Liz Kruger?
Oh yeah, yes. So Senator,
Are you shocked?
no,
And who?
Senator Liz Kruger, Senators Brook, forgive me if I'm pronouncing, I'm not, and I might not be not pronouncing it right. Jackson, Mayor Ryan Sepulveda, and of course, Andrea Stewart
How about
Cousins.
in the how about in the assembly?
I have the Senate here. I don't have the
I don't
assembly.
have the assembly either. I'm just trying to find out because I
Yeah,
believe Liz Kruger,
I will
we
tell
did
you. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
well, we did a podcast and we talked about Liz and a couple assembly people, and you have Breslin retiring, right?
Mhm.
And there's a female assemblywoman
Pat
from
Fahey.
Albany,
Pat Fahey.
Pat Fahey, exactly.
Yep.
She's now running
And
in the 46th Senate district. She's
right.
running.
These are two, and excuse me, because the whole point of this podcast is to be upfront and honest, right? We seek out the truth, we find we find the lies, and we know that politics is all bullshit, right? And we did this podcast because Pat Fahey and I believe Liz Kruger, they were supporting a bill that would allow 14-year-old kids to go take a vaccination without parent consent. And I found that to be just totally just crazy. So my guess that these people are behind this bill was more based off of the history. These people who are representing us, Liz, are out of control. They really are. They've
Uh,
overstepped their bounds way
And I
too
don't know
far.
how they can convince an entire public body to back them. That's
Because I'll tell
you
you how
know.
they can convince it. Liz Joy just told you how
Hmm.
they can do it. Because when you read every piece of that bill in the back of the
Yeah.
ballot, it just seems innocent.
Right, and,
yeah,
and so they don't bother reading the bill. They just say, "Hey, this bill is on up.
Well,
All in
have you
favor?
ever read
Yes,
a bill
yes,
in your
no, yeah,
life?
no." They
well,
don't read the
I
bill.
want to read this to you because
Please.
Sure.
Sean, to your point about that Pat Fahey and Liz Kruger sponsored a bill in regard to a child being able to give consent to their own immunizations. That
Yes.
that's right here in this bill.
Sure.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
So
And remember what Nancy Pelosi said, right? We have to pass the bill so we can see what's in it.
well,
Same
that's
thing, kind of here, right?
yeah, that is 100% correct. So for everybody listening, let me just read this to you because if Proposition 1 passes, again, parental rights are handed over to New York State. If this passes, parental rights are handed over to the New York State school system. Every parent that you lose your parental rights, and so how are they going to be able to the government take your child for transitioning drugs, gender transitioning drugs, or medical treatments without your knowledge, without your consent, and on top of it, keeping it from you. You'll have no knowledge of it. I'm going to tell you. That is Assembly Bill 6761 because this will pass. This is, by the way, in the legislature right now. This is in
Hmm.
the legislature, all geared up, ready to go. This is sitting in the health committee right now. Uh, Assembly Bill 6761, and the corresponding bill is Senate Bill 8532. This allows minors without consent, both of these bills together, to sign up independently for Medicaid,
Wow.
even though they might be covered on a parent's private health insurance plan. And that's fine. They can still say on their parent's private health insurance plan because the parent can be responsible for, taking their child for, colds and other things that need to be, you want to get antibiotics or whatever. Sure, absolutely. But independently, mom and dad, your child through these bills, Assembly 6761, Senate Bill 8532, sponsored by, to Sean's point, again, this one was sponsored by Liz Kruger. She is definitely one of these people that sponsored this. But also, it's Rise. Let me see. Introduced by, I think it's Rise, Reyes. So let me just take that back. I don't see Liz Kruger's name on here for 676, or that's a
well,
7.
no, her hand will go up for it.
But I think she's on 8532. But anyway, in any event, both of these are sitting in the New York State Legislature right now. So let me read some of this to you. So what would this do? What would these do if passed? Here it is. An act to amend the public health law, just like the abortion law has been now put into public health law all the way up till the time of delivery, just like a minor daughter, minor woman, child can have an abortion without parental consent. That is New York State public health law. It's not going anywhere. This is an act to amend, again, the public health law, the mental hygiene law, the social services law, and the insurance law. There you go, mom and dad, insurance law in relation to allowing certain youth to give effective consent to medical, dental, health, and or hospital services and immunizations. Reading from directly from the bill, medical, dental, health, and hospital services may be rendered to persons, here it is, of any age, minor children, 18 and under, any age,
Mm-hmm.
without the consent, this is the wording, without the consent of a parent, legal guardian, or person possessing a lawful order of custody when in the practitioner's judgment an emergency exists. However, a child may give consent to medical, dental, health, and hospital services pursuant to this section, may give such consent to their own immunization, and the consent of no other person shall be necessary. Mom and dad, you don't want your child maybe to get a certain immunization, or you have concerns about it, or you are concerned about some of the side effects. It doesn't matter. You cannot even deny, you cannot argue. Remember the civil rights law, the new constitutional law, right? For Proposition 1. Now, mom and dad, you can't even argue. You cannot interfere and you cannot deny.
Liz,
Can't
this is frightening.
It is. So let's also just go under here. Ready? They even define, remember how I talked about that the legal description of wording is very, very important when you are writing legal documents, which in fact are bills.
Yes.
Here, they actually describe what a minor is in being able to amend. Remember, they want to amend public health law, mental hygiene law, social services law, insurance law in relation to youth. But here, they actually give what minor means. This is their description in this bill. Minor shall mean a person under 18 years of age, but shall not include a person who is the parent of a child.
So it gives the right to the child and not the parent.
They sort of went out of their way, didn't they, to say child consent, but definitely not the parent. Okay. Here we go even further. A mental health practitioner may provide outpatient mental health services to a minor voluntarily seeking such services without parental or guardian consent if the mental health practitioner determines that it's needed in any way. So your child can get mental health counseling, transition counseling without parental consent. A parent or guardian, what if they've refused? A parent or guardian has refused to give such consent. Practitioner determines that treatment is necessary and in the best interest of the minor. They override the parents. Says it right here in this bill. And then here it goes on to say, this is just truly disgusting to me. A minor, remember they defined minor? Any child under the age of 18, that could include your toddler, your preschooler. Get this, your elementary school student. A minor who consents may be administered psychotropic medications without the consent of a parent or guardian or the authorization of a court. Get this. What are psychotropic drugs? Because I had to look that up. I'm not exactly sure. What does that mean? What is the definition of psychotropic drugs that someone could give to our children without parental consent and without our knowledge? It's stimulants, sedatives, antidepressants, antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, anti-anxiety drugs, and sleep aids. So a minor, a little.
So we can just poison our kids.
You know, the whole
let's
thing
just
smacks. The whole thing smacks at me like it's almost like a legal kidnapping.
Well, that's what I just said when we talked about it, Timmy. I said when we were
Yeah.
talking about all these kids, 300,000 kids lost
Yeah.
in the United States. We talked about a couple shows that were out that were really true, a representation of kids being stolen.
Yep.
Um,
And this
we
is what
talk
this all smacks of. Yes.
this sounds like a government who's setting up the system to be
Wiping
able
out
to,
the family.
yeah, to steal families away from each other and to
Yeah.
control every aspect of your life. Liz, let me just ask you a question because this is something that I just can't wrap my arms around with. This bill is not really a bill of giving rights. It's a bill of stealing rights from the parents in the state of New York to
Yeah.
allow a government full of morons to
Yeah.
take your kid and say, hey, what would happen in this situation? Let's just say your kid's 8 years old, 9 years old, and they call him down to the principal's office because he's acting out. And the principal says to him, son, are you okay? You have a problem? Are you nervous? Are you scared? And the kid says, well, I'm scared. And he says, well, if I give you a little bit of medicine to make you feel better, do you want it? And the kid says, well, okay. Is that consent to give some of your kids some of this poison bullshit? I couldn't even give my kid an aspirin.
That's correct. You can't. You are not allowed to send your child to school with aspirin, Tylenol, or Advil without a doctor's note.
Jesus,
Maybe they have
Mary
their
Joseph.
braces adjusted, their teeth are sore.
Yeah.
Do that. But they can take your minor daughter for an abortion. They can give her the abortifacient drug without your consent. That's already public health law. And now, according to Assembly Bill 6761, if passed, they're going to be allowed to be able to give all these medications without parental consent. There will be no knowledge of parents even having to know about it. Your children will be covered to be allowed to, and like I said, it amends the insurance law. Your child will be given state insurance, and now they'll be covered. Your child will be covered under HIPAA laws, so that parents are not going to be allowed to know, because it's not only is it a violation of HIPAA laws, it's a violation of their civil rights. And so I have 9 minutes, but I want to go on and talk to you about those drugs that I just listed, all those psychotropic drugs that they're going to be allowed to
Yep.
give your child without parental consent. Here's the thing I want people to remember. Here's the thing, because maybe people are saying, well, I kind of support all these things. If someone wants to transition, if somebody wants to do this, you might support it. But here's what I want to say to you. Scientifically, medically speaking, so regardless of what party you are, people's frontal lobes, right, are not even fully developed. Their brain is not fully developed until the ages of 25 to 30 years old. That is a medical, scientific fact. It's not developed until the ages of 25 to 30 for every single person that was ever born. Okay. So, what these bills do are saying that these children whose frontal lobes are not even fully developed, they're not adults, they're children, can be given surgical maiming, cutting off body parts, giving consent for that, being given psychotropic drugs, being given, other medical procedures before they are even fully developed in their frontal lobes to be able to properly give consent. Well, what is the frontal lobe responsible for? I just want to say this. Frontal lobe functions determine the following, and this is a medical scientific fact: decision making, executive functions, emotional regulation, planning, and impulse control. So, even if we were just going on this alone, we should all be voting no on Proposition 1 for the sake of allowing these individuals, these human beings, to have the chance to let their brains fully develop into adulthood. Ages 25 to 30 is when that happens. Before making life altering, body altering decisions that have enormous consequences on their physical, mental, emotional persons, on their human beings. I think it's cruelty. I think it's abusive. And here's what I want to give a statistic about. Currently, there are 60,000 minor children in America without fully developed frontal lobes who have already gone under gender transition prescription drugs, they're already taking them, hormone altering drugs, and puberty blockers. Almost, we think it's more than that, but almost 6,000 children that's been reported have had total transgender surgeries performed on their bodies. 6,000. 225 hospitals in our country are now performing transgender surgeries and cutting off children's body parts under the age of 18. In
Crazy.
New York State is already one of the number one states allowing children to get transition surgeries. And just since 2019 alone, over 1,200 New York children who are not even fully developed have gone under the knife, with insurance companies in New York hospitals raking in over $20 million in profits. And these numbers are going to keep on growing. And New York hospitals are going to keep profiting. And the physicians who are agreeing to do this are going to be profiting. This is becoming a big, huge money-making business, these gender surgeries. So
Sure.
I have to end in a couple of minutes, but that is why in presenting all of this information, I want to ask listeners and viewers, listen to what we have said on this podcast. It is factual, and we have debunked the lies. We have built on the truth. We've proven it through the bills themselves, through statements of the governor themselves, through public health law itself. We have to vote no on Proposition 1. We have to protect the children. We have to protect parental rights. We have to protect women's sports and girls' sports and their safety and security in locker rooms, bathrooms, showers. And we have to protect our New York State constitutional rights that only citizens are voting in our elections. Vote no
Let-
on Proposition 1.
Liz, let me just say this. I'll close with you because I know you have to go. But if the people in New York State who can vote use their front lobe, this thing should never pass. Okay.
Mhm.
Quite simply, because this is stuff that is a monster movie. This is not stuff that American people should be going through. This is like third world country where there's, they do harvesting body parts from
Yeah.
people. This is the most scariest thing because it's happening like a little tick, tick,
It's like
tick. It's not right in your face.
Yeah,
it's
like
a little piece.
Afghanistan, where you can marry a 9-year-old girl. It's
Yeah, it's
insane.
It's abusive.
Yes.
Cruel.
If 1980
Sorry.
was today and any of us tried to do this, they would take our kids away. In 2024, if you allow your kids to do it,
That's my call. I have to be on a conference call now. So
it's
let me.
good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for coming on
We'll
board.
talk
Joe.
soon.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Yeah.
Hey, Timmy, I mean, it is what it is. This is the most
Yes.
frightening shit that I've ever heard. Now, I had a chance to speak to John McDonald briefly. He had a total different view of this Proposition 1. So I'm going to ask him to come on and see if he'll explain his point of view. Because when I read this, I read it the way Liz Joy reads it.
Yeah.
There's
I
no
agree.
need to add all of these components to something unless those components are going to be used in some way to benefit the elected officials that are putting them in there.
Well, I think basically the language in there, Sean, is ambiguous, where
Well, it's supposed to
open
be, right?
It's right. It's
Yeah.
open to interpretation, and say the school system or whatever is going to use that to say, well, we could do that because it says any person. That's ambiguous, and I think what will happen is, if it ends up going to court, which I imagine it will, courts.
Well, it all depends, right? It all depends who. Listen, if it goes to court in New York State, a bunch of Democrats,
Yeah. And
they're not going to go
judges.
against the legislature. They're going to say these are the rights of the legislature,
And if
right?
this passes, Sean, you'll probably be moving to Florida.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. And I'm not saying this to be like a crazy man,
Right.
but if anybody tried to do this to my family, it wouldn't go so well.
Yeah.
because
Same
we'd be
thing.
fighting tooth and nail.
I
And I'm
agree.
sure that everybody that I've ever hung out with in my life would tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
And the people who support this, the
Yeah.
people that allow it to happen, are the ones that the legislature is drawing from, right?
Yeah.
Remember, I told you every single moment of your life as a politician is a calculated decision on how to get reelected. So
Yeah.
so we're a pluralist society without question. We all have our wants and needs, right? So they find a little pigeonhole and say, well, we don't have these people yet. So what do they want to do? A bunch of morons, a bunch of crazy sick people want to have little kids mutilate themselves. They want them to be able to take medicine, and they want to say, well, I was sitting down with the little boy and he told me he wasn't feeling good. I put chloroform over his face. Now, maybe that sounds far-fetched, and maybe it is, but man, it's something you have to think about today.
Yeah. Try
Don't
this in
let your
Right.
kids out of your sight.
Right. Try this
Don't
in
let
Cajun
parents lose their
country
rights.
and see what happens. Try to
Parents
do
need
this
to
down
fight for
south.
rights, Timmy.
Right. Yeah. And it should not get to that point in time.
Parents need to fight right now before it's too late.
And you fight by voting down Proposition
You
1.
fight by voting down Proposition 1. You fight by having a voice. You fight by standing up and saying to politicians, you do not have a right to be the parent of my kids. The government has no right. I have a God-given right to raise my kids. That's what the United States Constitution says.
And that's
I have a
freedom of
God-given
religion.
right.
Look at the Amish. You're going to say if you have an Amish family in New York State, and I imagine there are, right? Amish community. You think that this is going to fly with them?
To me, it's a scary time in the world. It's
It is.
a scary time for all of us. All I can tell you is that Liz opened up my eyes to a lot of things that I thought I knew, and she just really gave me the information to say.
It was a great podcast by her.
Yeah, she did a great job. Liz, again, thanks for coming on. Timmy, it's good to see you, and I hope everybody has a great day. This is going to be a taped podcast that's going to go up tonight at 8:00. But we will have the opportunity to have a dialogue with the people if they text into the show. So, hey, Tim, good to see you.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Yep. Take care. Good day.